Waiting, and this hangout is on air and live. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another fun-filled live episode of Film Geek Primer, or as we like to call it, FGP Live. With me, as always, is Dub. Dub, how you doing this fine evening?
I seem to be doing okay. And should it be FGPL? I like the initialization.
Oh, actually, FGPL is a pretty solid idea. Maybe we oughta go with that. Figpol.
Figpol. Well, it's still less of a mouthful than Film Geek Primer Live.
This is true. This is true. Yeah,
I think that phrase is what actors say when they're warming up before they go on stage. It's like unique New York Film Geek Primer Live.
Right.
Red leather, yellow leather. Film Geek Primer Live.
10 dwarves took turns turning. No, was it 10 dwarves took turns doing?
And that's why you're never on stage.
Yeah, that's a Bugsy reference for those out there who don't know what that is. So so do me a favor, Aaron. Just talk for 30 seconds really quick, and I'm just kind of curious to see if my face is the one that stays up once this thing is recorded and done.
All right, I'm going to talk for about 30 seconds. I was telling John right before the show that I've had a pretty dry week in terms of media consumption, or at least anything that would be relevant to talk about here. I've been catching up on season 1 of House of Cards, and I think there's a broader question about whether or not television shows, in the particular individual television shows, not television as a whole genre, is competitive or in fact exceeding what cinema can do. In terms of storytelling, in terms of acting, in terms of the things that you would go to, say, an Academy Award-winning film to experience, can you get that in 13 one-hour chunks from modern television series?
Other than that's okay. I get that.
That was me filibustering for a few seconds with
right.
a topic with really the only topic I've been thinking about recently.
Well, I mean, what do you think? How do you feel? What do you think? What's your opinion on it?
I think that television is poised to surpass cinema, but it's not a competition. It's mediums leapfrogging off of one another. So everything you could do in theory in 80s cinema, let's say, you can do real cheap and easy on television. The shows like Game of Thrones and even Boardwalk Empire, if you've ever seen how they've done that, the way they use special effects to up the production value means that these television shows on a fraction of the budget can start producing visually a quality on par with what you would expect when you went to the movie theater.
Sure.
By and large.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Then add to that the fact that they have a canvas that could be much larger than what you would get in any movie. And they're really sort of poised to become a more mature and sophisticated storytelling venue than cinema, which by definition is limited to, at most, like 4 hours, and that's considered way too long.
Sure. I mean, yeah, there have definitely been. I mean, even right now we've got Nymphomaniac parts 1 and 2 playing in theaters. Kill Bill 1 and 2, of course, played in theaters. Bertolucci had 1900, which was a 5.5-hour movie that played as a single run, stuff like that. There have been longer form movies.
Now, 5-6 years down the line, Netflix approaches Quentin Tarantino and says, instead of making a short 4-hour Kill Bill, do you have a 13-hour story you would like to tell? Do you have a story that you've been tired of constantly editing down because the scope of it is so big? We can make that.
Yeah, true. Hold on here. Oh, sorry. Tremendo has just emailed me. Can't get the cam to work. Can I try audio only? And then he sent us his email. Shall we try to add him anyways?
Yeah, if he's... Yeah, tell him to hop on Google Plus and add it in.
All right. We are inviting him in. Invitation posted. We'll see what happens. You know what? It's now, and while we're waiting for him, actually, let me text him. Let him know we sent invite. invite.
Yeah, I can't invite for the record.
Yeah. So I agree with you. What I find fascinating, and it's true. What I would say though is that you also have two very different, not mediums, but storytelling devices. I think the 2-hour movie or even the 3-hour film has I wouldn't say it has a specific structure, but it has a certain storytelling technique to it that's very different than the long form that we are seeing on Netflix. And I think, and I know you haven't seen this yet, True Detective is being that just ended after an 8-hour basically 8-hour movie, about an hour a week for 8 weeks. Feels much more structured like a very large film than it does as a TV series. It doesn't play by the act structure of episodic television, if that makes sense. It's like an episode comes and goes. You don't feel the act breaks per se as you would on a on a Fox show, or even like Breaking Bad or anything like that. You don't have the dun 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 moment where you would feel a commercial would come in and then come into the next act of that episode. It feels much more like an incredibly long-form film. And of course, but just being a pretentious prick, the longest film, of course, Shoah, the documentary, which is a 9-hour documentary about the Holocaust, that's happy.
Right.
Well,
you know why it got to be 9 hours is I think a lot more movies would be 9 hours long, but nobody wanted to be the guy in the cutting room that said, let's take out this part of the Holocaust documentary. That really doesn't need to be there.
Well, the funny thing is they took out or they didn't put a bunch of stuff in, and he's been actually releasing documentaries for years of other people that he recorded, stuff like that. He just had another 4-hour film come out about a specific man.
It's not a movie so much as it is the first part of a museum.
It's
an ongoing document of history more than anything else.
It is a visual.
You brought up Breaking Bad, and I think that's an excellent point. If you told that story in a movie, it's Scarface, and it has to happen in 2.5 hours at most before you get bored with it. But Breaking Bad was able to show you the life of this man.
Yes.
It was able to delve into that story, and it also, it deserves all of the credit it gets. But one of the things that I've said before, I think I'm going to record my own short video on this one, but the idea is that there was no television show before Breaking Bad or since that has been given its opportunity. So it had a really unique position in that as long as it was dirt cheap, AMC could keep producing it. They were a nascent network. They were very early on, and it caught enough steam, and the creators were clever enough to arc their characters slow enough in the first and second seasons to where a true almost 3-act structure character arc could be examined over the course of 5 seasons.
Agreed, yeah.
Which is something that television has never seen before. Not because it hasn't tried or not because it didn't want to, but just the infrastructure of the institutional means by which entertainment is delivered to the public was not ready to accept that kind of long-form video production / commitment.
Right, and of course part of that also has to do, in fact, with the ability to rent on DVD, and especially near the end, being able to stream through Netflix. On
demand had a huge part in it. I mean, but when you think back to some of the other serialized shows and other shows that tried to do broader character arcs, they were filled with so many stumbles that more often than not were the fault of the television infrastructure than it was the writers or the creator. So the first example, and Vince Gilligan is what brings this to mind, is the X-Files.
Oh, okay, interesting. I thought you were going to go with Sopranos. Okay.
Well, I don't even think the Sopranos did it. And I don't think Mad Men is doing it either, but we can get back to that. But starting with the X-Files,
it had an endpoint concept in the X-Files, which was
it had an endpoint concept. It was super smart at the time to make it vague, so that they probably didn't even know what they were doing necessarily at the beginning, but they had enough time, and they only had to deliver very small amounts of information to keep the audience going, they closed out the storyline, more or less, or they brought it to where it would naturally have come to an end, and then they had like 3 seasons after that with Robert Patrick. Like they didn't respect their own material enough to tell the originally conceived storyline and then walk away.
Well, I think I think also that was during an era where you didn't walk away if you had a hit show. I mean, that was
Absolutely.
that was not an option at that time. Whereas now it's, I mean, things have changed a lot because X-Files would be 22 episodes a season, which was very much standard. You only had a fall season. Summer season was death to any show that came out. It was just, that's where they would throw the refuse.
Right.
And if they had a hit show, you just kept going. You went until you beat that horse to death.
Yeah, and so then the second example that I always think of is Lost. Naturally, this was a very ambitious show that I think at the outset, if we lived in the television landscape we lived in now, would be brave and bold enough to approach the studio and say, we have a 6-season show, we want to pitch you. And we want it to be 13 hours a season, and we're going to tell a single storyline, and there's not going to have to be filler, and there's not going to have to be tangents unless they're intentional, and we can still have the same first season more or less. We can take them right up to where they find the hatch, because they wanted to make it character based. They had to extend it for a while. They probably had more characters than they could have possibly mapped out or conceived of, and they must have started that show not having any kind of hope of being able to end it. Like it was jump in the deep end and see if you can swim. So and I think a lot of networks, especially naturally ABC, learned a lesson there, where Lost did amazingly well on DVD, and if On Demand had been around, that was one of the first shows, that and 24 were like the 2 first shows I ever remember people binging on. That was like where that term first came into fashion, I think.
Right, yeah, I think that era also, like The Shield, I think, was one at that time.
Sex and the City. I knew a lot of people that binged on Sex and the City. People didn't have HBO, and those DVDs came out and started making the rounds, or Netflix. Frankly, it's Netflix. They let you binge on that stuff. But it's back to the fundamental point. It's broadening the template of what television is capable of doing. And there are few, I mean, it's natural that everything's coming out in 3D because there are few things that films can offer that televisions can't these days.
Sorry, hold on. Tremendo, I apologize. Tremendo is trying to get in here. All right. Anyways, okay. Yeah, and Lost is a very bizarre. This is definitely not a Film Geek primer anymore, but that's fine.
Well, I think it is. I think it is because what it boils down to is, what is a film?
Sure.
Now I certainly don't think there has been the television show. More something like Twin Peaks, though I'm not fully familiar with it. There hasn't been the television show that allows for a much, much, much more like subjective, interpretive view of what's happening as a movie can, right? You can't do just a bunch of fucked up shit for 13 hours and expect people to know what's going on. But in a movie, you could have a very surrealistic film play for 2.5 hours, and the audience will sort of stick with it.
Right, because they know there's going to be a climax to it, an outcome. It's a much more limited range. They know the story has to be much more compact.
Yes, and you can't walk away from it in frustration, right? I mean, you can turn it off, but once you've committed to watching a movie, you're pretty much I sat through The Fountain, right? I had to get to the end of that movie. Doesn't matter that I had little or no idea what was going on, and what I could understand I didn't care about.
Right.
I'm on the Fountain train, and I'm going to ride it to the end.
Right.
You will walk away from The Fountain if you watched 30 minutes or an hour and then had to come back next week.
Yep. Oh, it looks like Tremendo's here.
Hello.
Hello, and he got the mask there.
I'm frozen in time.
Hold on a second.
Unstuck in time.
All right. So,
You couldn't get the camera to work? What are you doing this on?
It's too dark. It's on my laptop.
Oh.
It's not picking up anything. It'll flash an image and then go black, even with all the lights on.
That's sad.
gotcha. So, what you just, you probably haven't been listening to the show. What we actually were talking about.
Actually, Gabe, can you get headphones? I think it's you that's causing the echo.
Yeah.
No, I don't have headphones.
All right.
I can lean closer.
So, can't tell.
Is this better?
Yeah, well, it's not that. It's the feedback of our voices coming through your speaker.
Oh, gotcha.
So, sorry. So we were just discussing. Sorry, Graf. You go ahead and explain.
So my general thinking. Well, first of all, this all stems from the fact that I've been woefully neglectful of my media consumption this week, so I don't have much new to talk about. But I was watching the first season of House of Cards anyway, and it got me thinking that television as a medium, because it can now incorporate much of the sort of spectacle and grandeur that cinema has, but can allow you to do that on a 13-plus hour timescale, is poised to surpass film as a storytelling medium in sort of the next 5-10 years. And shows like Breaking Bad and the stuff that's happening on Netflix sort of show that while there's still this concept of the hour segment of a show, the storytelling that's being done has been broadened well beyond what even the longest silent film filmmakers could conceive of. So the example John was using was Kill Bill Part 1 and 2. Well, what if Quentin Tarantino had been told he could make a 13-hour Kill Bill action movie and keep in each and every sequence he wanted, and of course I'm sure it would be more expensive, but if he wanted to tell that story in 4 hours, think of what a filmmaker like that could tell in 13. So, like, Gabe, what television shows are you watching these days?
Game of Thrones. What's the one that just ended? True Detective. Yeah, that felt like a.
Yeah, I'm gonna hold on. I haven't seen True Detective.
I'm not giving anything away by saying it was long, like a long film.
Yeah, and I'd mentioned that actually.
Very cinematic.
Yeah, that it felt that its structure, its episodes didn't feel structured like a television show as much as it felt like, especially when you hit episode 4, and even Cary Joji Fukunaga. I don't know why he added the Joji to his name, because apparently there's another Cary Fukunaga out there.
He's right.
You're not familiar with Fukunaga?
What's that?
You're not familiar with the Fukunagas?
No, I'm not.
Fukunagas?
No, the Pennsylvania famed filmmakers. Anyway, no. So, and he really kind of discussed episode 4, the end of episode 4, feeling like the end of Act 1, it being a 2-act structure. And the ending of 4 being the end of Act 1, and the end of course, episode 8 being the end of Act 2. And it feels that way. The way the episodes are structured aren't the standard act breaks within an episode as much as it's a growing progressive story. And I think, and it's interesting. I think technology being the kind of crux of your argument is what it sounds like, Dub.
No, I wouldn't say that. I think the crux of my argument is that fundamental business models have changed to where a company like a Hulu or a Netflix has put itself in between the content producers and the content consumers. And the way they've done it by necessity is to fill themselves up with backlog. And what backlog did was put literally entire seasons of television shows, instead of 2 episodes on a disc and then you've got to wait for the next one. You literally have access to an entire season of a television show at your disposal. And what we're all discovering as consumers is that we like to binge watch. That there is nobody unless you're like super conscious about doing this very particular thing, there is nobody who said, I am going to watch one episode of House of Cards every Sunday night at 9 o'clock, because that is the optimum way to consume media.
Right.
Nobody believed that. Nobody did that. That was a false construct, brought on by the business necessity of producing and distributing television.
Right.
Do you think Netflix was the one that launched binge watching as kind of like a media consuming behavior that's now the norm? Because we as film fans, we've done the all night movie marathons because we like movies, so that's like it's almost normal to binge watch on movies. But what do you think the fact that we could just mail order them and get them through the mail and binge watch at our leisure, was it Netflix that was the linchpin in that kind of consumption?
I think it actually comes to the releasing of current shows on videotape / DVD back in the time. Because I think people would binge watch Twin Peaks and I'm trying to think of if not, and I'm not talking like Dick Van Dyke or I Love Lucy, which would like put out their little video sets and shit like that. But I feel like Twin Peaks was one of those shows that released itself on video not soon after it came out, but soon enough that people who hadn't witnessed it just sat down and started watching them, and each tape would have 3 or 4 episodes on it, and they would just start knocking them off.
But even then, you were tied to the physical media. Right, you had to hand those things from person to person.
Right, sure, okay, but I'm sorry. Then you're going to need to define binge watch here. How many episodes is considered binge watching?
I think it's not the number of episodes. I think it's more defined by the access. So when it was a physical medium and you had to purchase, if you purchased an entire season of a show on VHS, you had what, 9 tapes?
Yeah.
I remember someone who said that they were like, oh, I got a season of Cheers on VHS, and it was like 7 tapes.
Right. Yeah. And
so there was 11.
Mama's Family's 13
or whatever of Cheers. You're talking, you're talking serious storage.
Yeah. Well, because I'm thinking.
So now it's not that you have a couple of friends over. You want to watch 8 episodes of Arrested Development. They're all right there. It's all at the click of a button. Binge watching an entire show that you like is as easy as putting it on Channel 7 and just letting it play through.
I think now when you're seeing the stuff streamed, it's more about getting it consumed and to experiencing the product. When I was buying DVD and videotape sets, it was archival, like the Star Trek sets.
Sure.
I didn't buy them so I could watch all of them. I bought them so that I could have them in case I wanted to in the future. Binge watch.
But also when The Shield came out. Shay and I at the time started watching season 1 and just started. It was like we would literally go back to the store to get the next disc so we can continue watching that entire season that day. Now, though, if we're going to go on kind of a streaming level kind of thing, it would not be Netflix. It would be on demand, because that's actually how I started watching Mad Men and Breaking Bad, is because they were available on AMC on demand through my cable company at the time, and I ended up watching the entire season then, and then Netflix streaming I think came out about a year and a half later after that.
Don't forget sweet BitTorrent.
Yeah, and I agree. That's true.
Yeah. Once media became digitized and it became a lot easier to pass around, yeah, you're absolutely right. I think BitTorrent had a huge impact in people's ability to binge watch, because there were a lot of people in this particular call who were downloading this stuff out of a sense of archival importance.
Mm-hmm.
Without incriminating myself, have you ever felt the need to, say, subscribe to a premium channel and watch a season out of, maybe some kind of guilt that you've downloaded so many in the past? I did that with Game of Thrones last year. I went ahead and just subscribed to HBO just to watch Game of Thrones.
Yeah, it's a heavy price to pay. But they've made it easier to justify with the HBO Go app, because if you're already paying your cable company, why can't you get HBO? And then you're supposed to pay for HBO, what some people are paying for Netflix to get unlimited streaming. So you're paying, extra money on top of extra money. It's just financially, it doesn't make a lot of sense to go HBO.
I thought HBO Go came free with your subscription.
It does, but you already have to have a subscription. And in order to get a subscription to HBO, you already have to be subscribing to cable.
Right.
So there's a huge barrier to entry financially to even get HBO. Because
Gotcha.
It's not, you can think about it as $10, but it's not just $10. It's, potentially $110 because you've got to get cable through.
Right, you've got to pay for everything, yeah.
Now,
Right.
Time Warner, you can stream from your computer or remotely through your device. You can, and this is not a commercial for Time Warner Cable, or Comcast or whatever it's going to become. But you can stream live TV from any device.
Yeah.
On the channels that you subscribe to or the themes you subscribe to. I think the model for the future. I mean, there's so many streaming services, but WWE just came out with their own app, their own network app.
Right, and that's actually on. That's available on PlayStation as well, right? I think I saw that the other day.
PlayStation, Roku, Xbox, web. And what they've done is they have a live streaming original content stream, in addition to an archive of all their past shows and pay-per-views and all of this library they've accumulated over the years. And I think that's going to be the business model for certain media entities. I wouldn't be surprised if NFL started, if major sports networks started doing it that have all this old content that they're just going to, once they relinquish it from any kind of cable agreements or distribution rights, they'll just put on the net as an app or a network app.
Yeah, I think the app model is fantastic because I would love to have.
Well, what that is though is it's the a la carte thing that everybody's been wanting cable to do for years.
Yeah.
Everybody's been wanting cable to go to a la carte, and cable's like, well, can't do that, blah 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 blah. The app thing bypasses all of that, and and so for me, I don't do cable television. Everything I do is any movies and stuff like that I watch is through my computer, or it's streamed to my television through my PS3 or through my computer as well. And so from that I can decide on if I want to, I can get the Netflix, I can do the Amazon Prime, I can do the Warner Brothers Archives has their streaming system now.
Yeah.
There's several anime companies. There's Crackle. There's all of these.
So John, how much do you spend for access to media on a monthly basis?
Okay, well, let's see. So I'm going to separate the DVD Netflix from the streaming portion of that bill. About 20.
Well, no. I think it's Netflix. Whatever you pay for Netflix, and then whatever you pay for Amazon Prime.
Okay, and that's the weird thing is that the whole Amazon Prime deal is, of course, you get free shipping. There's all that other extra crap on top of it. The movies are almost kind of like a bonus. So theoretically, at the end of the year, I pay nothing for Amazon Prime because of the free shipping. It's making up for that $70.
If it wasn't for free shipping, would you be an Amazon Prime member?
Probably. Actually, I hate to say this, probably not. Because that was one of those things. Yeah, that was one of those things where I really debated.
Are you a Hulu Plus guy?
I am a Hulu Plus person.
Okay.
And I did that for the Criterion collection originally.
God, how come they have the worst movie selection anywhere and the Criterion collection? They've got a sea of just crappy movies and the Criterion collection.
I think it's because Criterion originally also had their own streaming. The Criterion site had their own streaming system originally, and you would pay $8 a month for it or something like that. And my guess is whatever it was costing them wasn't worth what those people were. So finding something and then they started. I think they were experimenting probably, and they do still have some movies on Netflix. But I think what they found was that they could do kind of a package deal with Hulu Plus, which was great. But they also have content. There's a bunch of Criterion content that is not available on disc. So it almost feels like a testing ground for them. It's how many people are going to watch this, which means, okay, maybe we've got something here. Or if they don't want to put the money into a giant disc set or getting all kinds of other stuff, they get the rights to these movies that they can then put on their Criterion channel. And there are plenty of Criterion lovers out there because it's kind of its own weird little cult that will pay to stream that. Oh, totally, yeah. And
so you don't have cable, but you've got Netflix, you've got Hulu Plus. Let's call these strictly entertainment. We'll take the Amazon Prime out there because if you're not willing to pay for their entertainment yet, because they apparently have some very interesting shows.
Sure.
Are you a member of any file sharing communities that cost you money?
No.
Weren't you for a while? I thought you were.
Yes.
Okay, so then on top of that,
I will neither confirm nor deny.
Sure. If
As
you
your counsel,
could,
I advise you to plead the fifth.
Exactly.
Right.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
He's all our lawyers.
Tremendo Esquire. Senior
If you
Tremendo
can't
Esquire.
trust a lawyer in a mask with a giant T on the front, who can you trust? On top of that,
For truth.
if I were in your situation, and even the situation I'm in now, on top of that, if someone were to say every year for like a month or two, I'm going to sign up for $10 a month to HBO and get unlimited access to HBO Go and be able to stream their content.
Oh, Heartbeat! I will already do that. Yeah, I would be more than happy because I've seen HBO Go, and that's one of those things where it's like, I mean, I've already gone back and watched, episodes of Rome again, or The Wire, or like I just watched some Game of Thrones the other night because I couldn't remember some of the early things. I was like, okay, this is where that happened, so let me rewatch that.
Yeah.
No, I mean, I would gladly pay. So right now I'm spending approximately $25 a month on exterior outlets that aren't cable based. So that's still, that much. I mean, that's still like, was it at least 70 for cable minimum? And you're not really getting IFC or anything fun that I would enjoy.
Right.
So I mean, I'm already saving a ton of money there. My biggest issue, of course, is that like Warner Archives has a ton of stuff that I would love to watch, but I don't want to pay the $8 a month, $10 a month to have access to it. But odds are I'd maybe watch one thing a month. That's something that I would rather do. That's why I keep the Netflix discs. That's that access to the other things. Because I hate to say this, Netflix streaming doesn't have a lot of great shit. I mean, it's pretty. If you got kids, you're set. If you want old Hercules movies, you're good to go. But it's got a weird.
Thumbs up for the freak, no.
Yeah, exactly. No. I'm talking about the old peplum Italian ones. I'm not even talking. Yeah. There's a lot of weird stuff going on there. But I would say that it's such an odd. And again, I think Tremendo mentioned this is about us consuming so many films from different genres and places.
Right.
I wish there was one site that would do that. I did the 2 weeks free at Epix.
Yeah, how was?
It was fine. It was they have the exclusive on the John Milius documentary. So which I really wanted to see. So it was like 2 week free trial. I watched it like 5 or 6 times, just playing in the background even, just so I'd make sure that I could get as many views out of it as possible over that couple weeks. And there's a lot of amongst a lot of the main the non-specialized ones, so like the non-Warner archives, there's a lot of crossover, between them.
You bring up a very interesting point when we talk about. We're talking about means of distribution, but a lot of these means of distribution are constrained by the rights holders of these films.
Yeah.
So when you're talking about the rights holders of ABC's entire television backlog, you're talking about one guy, right, who's got to sign one paper, and then it gets processed through the company, and everyone gets paid who needs to get paid.
Right.
Bye, Tremendo. But
did he
the
hang
guy
up?
the guy that owns the rights to the John Milius documentary, that fucker's a maverick, and he's not going to listen to anyone. He's going to do his own thing and say what he wants, and he's not going to sign up with any corporation. So then it becomes a lot harder to corral his media into the more widely used outlets. So one of the models that I really like is what happens on YouTube. Yay, Google! What happens on YouTube, where you can subscribe to someone's channel, you get kept up to date as that channel is kept up to date, and you can go into the channel and you can check their archives. So like I would subscribe to, for me it would be like AMC and IFC and ABC and Fox and all the big networks, and I would like to be able to dig into each network's entire catalog, everything they're willing to stream at a network level, consolidated in one shopping location. So that's
Right.
not going to be Netflix necessarily. What's going to happen there is it's going to be my TV probably. And my TV will come preloaded with apps, the ABC app, the AMC app, the Fox
Right.
app, the NBC app, the NBC Olympics app, the NBC Sports app. I can throw all those things on there. And then when they say a show is on NBC, yes, you can watch it on TV when it comes on at 9, or you can wait the next day and have it streaming, or you can wait in perpetuity and it'll be available in digital content for as long as human beings have computers. It's a system where you're getting closer to the producer of the content,
Right.
rather than through the distribution model. So Netflix is super smart in producing their own content because then they vie for that same thing. So as the model starts going where companies want to own and monetize more of their own content themselves, they'll start asking either for more money from Netflix or they'll just stop giving it to Netflix. And then Netflix wouldn't have, if Fox had a means by which they could monetize streaming and online viewing of Arrested Development, how much money would they have made by now?
See,
But they signed a one-time check to Netflix.
Well, that's not true. I think they actually make something off of every viewing. I don't think it's just a flat fee. Or there may be for certain films and stuff like that. But
Netflix is the middleman.
Yes.
And the more middlemen you can cut out, the better.
I agree.
And the way you cut out middlemen is technology.
I agree. But then what happens is we get this incredibly scattered system of different places anywhere. And if I have to subscribe to ABC, NBC, CBS, Fox, all the different things, so I have access to their stuff for back catalog and whatever else, that's not worth it to me, because I just want to see whatever the latest shows are most of the time. Rarely do I ever want to go back and watch repeats of Fringe or anything like that. One of the things, the one model that I think is working and probably could work continually, and because if they set aside their drone project and focus more on media, Amazon could be the controller of all of this stuff, because they could simply charge a very base rental price. Right now, their rental prices are too high. I feel, especially if I'm watching a movie that is 4 years old, 5 years old, they're still charging me $3 for it. Considering where we are from an era of video stores where new releases were $3, and you could get the 5 movies for $10 or $9, whatever, that 99-cent movies, that seems a much more reasonable price to me, especially since it's costing them nothing basically to rent me a movie for 24 hours or for 2 days, 3 days at 99 cents. The amount of time you also have to watch something is kind of a bizarre thing that they still. I don't know why they haven't looked at video store models for digital delivery rentals, because
video stores have been so successful.
Well, but that's not fair. Video stores were very successful because
I know. I just like being not fair.
I know, just being a dick. But video stores were tremendously successful. They were huge. They were. Every mom and pop store was making a fortune until Blockbuster and Hollywood Video and all the other giant places stepped in. But they were incredibly successful, and they would have their deals of 99-cent movies, and they would be a 5-day rental. So it's if they could incorporating that model the way it is now, it's I forget how it works completely, but it's once you start watching it, you have 24 hours. And there are a lot of people who have kids.
Really weird.
Yeah, right? And so it's okay, great, he's back. He made it.
Oh, sorry about that.
No problem. If they would construct more of the old video store model when it comes to renting stuff out, that you have, once you rent it, 99 cents for an older film, $2.99 for a more modern title. They can still do the direct or the on-demand new release thing at $10. That's fine. But depending on the age of the film, categorize it where it's you have 99 cents for an older film. You have 5 days to watch it. Cool, no problem. And then it's if you watch the first half hour the first night and shit gets busy and you got to come back 2 nights later to finish it, that's cool, that's your prerogative. But I think that people are asking for too much in the way of well, once I rent it, I should have as long as I want to watch it before I have to.
I'm sure they're also constrained by whatever deals they have in terms of what they can charge. If there's one thing Amazon knows about, it's tiered pricing.
Yeah, which is I think ridiculous from.
Well, here's the thing. Amazon is probably restricted by some form of MSRP in terms of what they can charge for their rentals, or they may be restricted by deals that they signed in order to just get their service up and running.
Right.
But you know that if there's any company that's out there working big data to make themselves more successful, it's Amazon. So they could conceivably start pricing their movies and their films and their television shows with the same dynamism that they price their products, where people in different locations get different prices, people who bought other things get different prices. They use all of the metrics they track about you to determine what price they deliver to you for the product. So the other interesting so that's one way of using big data from looking at it as more of a business standpoint, whereas I think they may get in trouble where they go up against Netflix, which is using their massive data collection system to try and give the consumer what they want. So they went with Arrested Development because that was one of their most successful shows. They saw that their consumers were binge watching it, and they knew that people were signing up just to watch it because it was the first thing that they watched when they signed up.
Oh, sure. Well, you heard about what's the Orange is the New Black? No, what's it called? Orange is the New Black? No. Orange is the New Black. Yeah, that was so. Genji Cohen, I believe her name is, who had created Weeds for Showtime, went to the cable networks to pitch Orange is the New Black. They said no, so it wasn't going to get made. So they then went to Netflix. Netflix literally ran that thing through the computer. Ran it through the computer, and they're like, "Hey, are people like women? Hey, are people like women in prison? Hey, are people like women in prison?"
Right.
And they were like, "Holy shit! Then this will work." So that's
House of Cards, same way.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
So they're using big data to craft content that people like, and I like it. I like what big data has been delivering me in terms of Netflix shows. Now I didn't see Hemlock Grove, and I didn't see.
Yeah, piece of shit. Sorry, Tremendo. Did you see Hemlock Grove? You're the horror guy. No, that'll teach you. Well, you've learned.
Well, is it Eli Roth? Who was involved in it?
Yeah.
Eli Roth was the main producer and then directed the pilot as well. Yeah.
I mean, I thought it was more Twilight kind of stuff, so I didn't bother. Was it like True Blood or something?
No. Well, it's tough to call it what it is. It's like it wants to be Twin Peaksy in a weird way. It's it's partially actually it's mostly a werewolf show with one good transformation scene. It was 250, 300 page book stretched into 13 hours.
Yeah, it didn't seem to have caught on. I don't hear people clamoring for season 2 of Hemlock Grove.
No, but it was approved for a second season.
Oh, really? Oh, I
yeah.
hadn't heard that yet.
Yeah, but then there's also the weird things like Lilyhammer was not made for Netflix. They picked it up, and it has actually turned into something relatively successful for them. It's not, it doesn't get the mass push and everything that
right, but they also knew at the time. I remember when they picked up Lilyhammer, they said, we know mob stories do very well, and we know comedies do very well with our consumers. So we thought we'd make a comedy mob story.
Right.
And that's how they're doing it. I just think that's brilliant. Like, they have the metrics that no other content creator has.
True.
Partnering up with
networks have the Nielsen ratings, and that's it.
Sorry, what were you saying, Tremendo?
Hulu is partnering up with either one of the two British networks, IFC or BBC, I forget which one. So they got some pretty good shows. They got The Wrong Mans.
Yeah. And the Wrong Mans is highly entertaining. Yeah, they actually have. It's the BBC that they've teamed up with because they now have all the Doctor Who's, all the Space, all the a ton of stuff, Brit stuff, and they're getting all the original programming early, which probably I would feel that almost came from the success of things that they've started showing on BBC America, where they or even the PBS American Masterpiece Theater with
Downton Abbey and all that.
Downton Abbey and Sherlock being a huge hit.
Yeah.
Well, I'm sure both of those are huge hits, but I would love to see some of the data on where they are hits. How many people watch Downton Abbey when it airs at, again, 9 o'clock on a Sunday?
Whitey Town.
Why what?
Whitey
Town. All the whites watch it. All those who come from the Anglos and the Saxons.
I doubt it. I bet even my people, the whites, I bet even me wait till it's streaming somewhere. I mean, I know I was so excited to see Sherlock season 3 premiering here in the States on PBS. I had it on my calendar. I was super excited. And then, you know, what happened was stuff happened, and I didn't sit down in front of my TV at a predetermined time to watch a television show at the only time I was going to catch it.
Yeah.
Right, but you're also saying that as a person whose thing is broken, recorder is broken.
Yes.
So I mean that's so that's I mean and then
Right.
and you know what, actually that's a very good point, going back to the whole binge watching thing from earlier. That is something
DVR technology.
DVR technology was a big thing, a proponent of that, of which people would end up just recording stuff and then just watching it all over the weekend. And that's binge watching, not a single like specific show, but they would do all their whatever their weekly shows were throughout that week that they wouldn't be able to catch Friday night, Saturday night, whatever it was. They would just sit and watch all of them.
Okay, so
Sometimes I do that.
let me throw this concept out.
Hold on a second. T, what's up?
Sometimes I do that just to feel nostalgic. Like I'll record stuff on DVR, then I preset. Okay, I'm gonna watch Supernatural, and then maybe a Marvel Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., and then maybe an Arrow, and make it a theme night once a week.
Yeah.
Even though it's not the prescribed airtime, just to feel nostalgic for the times we used to set aside a specific night to watch TV. It's almost quaint.
It does. It sounds delightful. I do that with Hulu.
Right.
You sort of have to do that with Hulu, especially for their shows that they only have like 5 episodes on. So I was really pressed for time in terms of keeping up with like The Blacklist and Sleepy Hollow and some of the other shows that I was watching this season. I missed out on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
No, you did not.
I saw like 4 episodes and I was like, must power through to
Let me ask you guys a question.
Yeah, what?
Has there been a show where what's the last show you watched on a week-to-week basis?
Me?
For whatever reason.
I watched Justified on a week-to-week basis. True Detective was one I watched on a week-to-week basis. I have like my evening, like I will confess I still watch Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., but I think it's because there's something deeply wrong with me. And so for some reason I'm forcing myself through the first season. There are, especially thanks to Hulu, is one of those things where every morning, while I'm getting ready, every morning on Hulu when I'm getting ready, I will have watched, I watched the entire first season of Nashville for no real reason, on a weekly basis, just because. So the Hulu thing keeps that week-to-week thing running for me on a lot of certain shows.
Yeah, and Hulu's a fantastic portal for that, because you sort of come in. I used to open it every day and just see what's up. Like, what was on TV last night? What are they pimping? Normally, I don't care about reality shows or sporting events or anything, so there's a lot that I just don't care about. But things will bubble up. I think that's how I started watching The Blacklist. Like in the fall and in the mid-season, I'll visit Hulu periodically and see what people are really pushing or really talking about.
Yeah, that kind of the cool thing about Hulu too. It's like, okay, I can watch the first pilot whenever, or over that first 5 weeks while it's still up, and go, okay, do I want to give this another try? Do I can just see what it's like, get a taste of what the show is, and then decide if I want to continue on with it or not.
Yeah, so much better than again having to sit at a prescribed time.
So what are some shows you guys have discovered on by binge watching or trolling the streaming sites? It's Bob's Burgers. I never thought much about Bob's Burgers. I saw the first few episodes, and I started watching them online, and really liked the show. So to me, that was the last one that binge watching helped me like the show.
Right.
So,
for me, I think it was that time, like when I watched, Mad Men and Breaking Bad were 2 of those shows that I don't know if I would have given up on them quickly, but it was one of those things, because the entire first season of both of those were available through AMC On Demand on our television at the time. I was able to get into it quickly and stick with it, and that really helped me kind of become addicted to the show. I can't think of anything recently that binge watching or being able to actually kind of sit down and start watching stuff has gotten me into.
I think Sleepy Hollow for me this season. I think if I hadn't been able to sit down and watch 3 episodes in a row, I would not have been willing to commit to the rest of the show.
Right. You know what? Actually, I'll Brooklyn Nine-Nine.
Oh yes.
Yeah.
That was a very funny show and everything else like that. I think I ended up watching the first 3 episodes in a row, and that was just enough character growth and arcing, because it's not, even though it's episodic, there's the characters still have their continued through lines. That really got me hooked on it.
Very good example, because I thought the previews for that looked terrible. I thought the previews looked so bad that I didn't even watch it like the first month or so it was on, and then someone, actually I think it might have been Daniel, someone was like, "You just got to try this show."
Right. Back in a second.
It's going to take like 40 minutes out of your life, and you'll get caught up. And I sat down and I watched 3 episodes of it. I binge watched, and that's it. I was hooked. That show is one of my favorite comedies now.
That one I binge watched just by DVRing it. I waited like 6 weeks without watching it, then I binge watched on DVR.
Yeah, I missed my DVR. My TiVo finally died, and I can't bring myself to either give Time Warner any more money for their DVR service, or put the cost outlay for TiVo. It costs so much just to get the service up and running, buying the hardware and everything. So I've been without DVR, but relying on the streaming services.
I've got a Time Warner DVR, but I don't know how much I pay for it. But it's got to be 5 to 6 years old.
Yeah, you're talking about the hardware, but the storage cost, not the storage cost, the cost of actually being able to record stuff that they're recording.
Yeah.
Time Warner charges you like $20 a month for. So
really?
Yeah, and TiVo charges you the same thing. Like in theory, you should be able to get like a tricked out Windows Media PC or something like that and hook it up to your cable box and be able to record shit at will. But that system, that software, that hardware-software interplay, they charge you for. And they charge you like $20 a month, and TiVo charges you something similar. It's just too costly.
I'm paying too much. My bill's $150. That's internet and cable. I got to get rid of cable.
Yeah, I want to do the same thing. My bill's even more. We've got home phone too, actually.
Right. Oh, that'll teach you. Forget that. Lose that home phone.
Yeah. So on top of that, the idea that I would pay another $15 or whatever to Time Warner to push my bill closer to $200 in order to get HBO. No single HBO show is worth me looking at a $200 bill. But an HBO app for $7.99 that I pay monthly, or that I can subscribe to the same way I do Netflix, yeah, they're premium content. But the problem is, once you've spun it away from cable, then you're only paying them for their original programming, more or less.
Which might be worth it, depending on how much you like the HBO.
Well, they would have to ramp up original programming. I mean, they've got Girls, and they've got Game of Thrones, and True Detective now.
Right, but also also one of those things though is the back catalog of stuff. Like HBO Go has everything they've ever made, including all of their original films. So you've got, if you've never seen Angels in America, you can see that. Also, HBO Go does right now.
That's so good.
Yeah, see, HBO Go has their movie lists as well. So they'll have like whatever their latest movie is that debuted on Saturday. I think that runs for like 2 months or something like that.
Oh,
so I can finally see Snitch. No, actually, I watched Snitch. It's actually not horrible. But A Good Day to Die Hard, or the latest piece of shit Die Hard movie was, I refuse to sit down and watch.
Oh, you're gonna sit down and watch it.
No, actually, it's funny.
You're gonna sit down and watch it.
Stand in rage.
It's gonna happen.
Okay, maybe someday.
Yeah, there it is.
Yeah, it's possible. Anything's possible.
Speaking of HBO movies, do you guys remember the older ones? The like Barbarians at the Gate.
Yes. And that's the thing.
That's Citizen X.
Citizen X.
Citizen X is one of the best serial killer movies ever made.
Absolutely.
Yep. Agreed. Yeah, and that was one actually I think I went looking for and couldn't find. I don't think they have a lot of those older ones on there, unfortunately, and they should, because they had Weapons of Mass Distraction. They had like all these different different movies that they were putting out at the time. And yeah, Citizen X. I remember. I don't remember, Dub, which one of us discovered that, or we both discovered it separately, and that was a bonding moment for us.
It might have been a bonding moment, because I think I found that on my own when I was deep in my serial killer phase. Yeah, because that was it's a stunning story and a true story. For the none of you who are watching this,
It's the true story of Russia's only on-record serial killer still.
I believe so. Yes.
Yeah, and because the Russian government would refuse to admit that one of their citizens.
It's a decadent Western phenomenon.
Exactly. And it starred Donald Sutherland, Stephen Ray, and Stephen Ray gives a great fucking performance in that film, and that was like during his like Crying Game heyday.
Right.
You know, it's like.
Was it before? It was either right before or right after the Crying Game. Like it was within a year or two of the Crying Game.
It was after. It was like that. Crying Game kind of did this odd thing of it didn't make him a star, but it definitely made him like a respected actor. And unlike Liam Neeson, he never wasn't a Taken or you know what I mean. He never moved into like action films. He always kind of like stayed much more of kind of a character actor in dramas and more serious movies. A lot of Neil, oh my God, I can't think of his last name right now. Nope. The guy that directed Crying Game.
This is unacceptable. Unacceptable, people.
Neil for
Harley.
The worst part is all I want to do is say.
Can IMDb get it before you?
Yeah, he's his last movie he just directed was Byzantium. I remember that. Neil Jordan.
Oh, you. Point Santo.
Hurrah! I'll keep the little checkboard
too
back.
many Neils in this world.
It's like because it's like Neil Marshall is one that popped in my head. Yeah, Neil Gaiman. Yeah.
I mean, I confuse them all.
Yeah, of course. So anyways, yeah. So for those who haven't, and I don't know how you can track down. I think it's still available on DVD on Netflix. But if HBO Go were to put out all those movies as well, that's one of those really cool things where it's like that's stuff that you can easily recommend to people.
I have seen Only in America on VHS.
Only in America. Oh, the Don King.
Oh, right. The Emmy Award-winning
that was a pretty good flick.
Emmy Award-winning given to Jack Lemmon. Ving Rhames vehicle.
Right. So yeah, they've got some great stuff. If their app actually delivers on it, that's the model. The question is, can they still be HBO under that model? Like they would need to be in the. I mean, they have been making a transition from premium film redistributor, right? People are willing to pay more because they get the movies before you see them with commercials on, regular TV. Then they made the transition because they realized that just having access to those movies wasn't enough for people. They saw huge subscription bumps with their series. One of the first ones being, Sex and the City and The Sopranos.
Before that they had Oz. I mean, they'd had a few little hits before that, but nothing.
Yeah.
Sopranos moved them to a new level. Sopranos was the one where it was suddenly lots of people started subscribing for that.
That's exactly it. The Sopranos and Sex and the City were the ones that actually brought people in to pay money for the show. Before, their original programming was added value to what you were paying for, and what you were paying for was access to the movies. Now, what you're paying for is access to this incredibly high quality television production, in theory, and the bonus is the movies. You don't see a movie for X, only on HBO anymore. They've moved their marketing budget away from pimping the movies they're redistributing to their wholly owned properties.
Sure.
So then the next step is it going to be possible for them to spin off their revenue model, maybe still charge $10 a month for a single network?
Yeah. Oh, I think so. Yeah. But even Netflix doesn't charge that much. You can stream less than that. You get a single network in Netflix, but you also get every other network. You get Breaking Bad. You get, Alias. You get, Lost. You get the whole back catalog of television that Netflix has access to. Is it the same? Is it worth the same just to get Game of Thrones for 13 weeks out of the year? I think so. Well, also HBO does something that's really smart though, which is one show ends and the next one begins. So there's always that next thing, and they've been very fortunate to have. Yeah, right now. And right now is the weird gap. I was actually surprised that True Detective ended, and we now have a month before Game of Thrones. Usually it's Game of Thrones ends and that same night is the premiere of True Blood, or
Right.
it's like they've continually or Boardwalk Empire like ends right after that. They've had that been
Well,
very
that's how I got into Deadwood, because they started running Deadwood right at the end of 6 Feet Under.
right.
What a great
Yeah.
2 hours of life that was. Right? 6 Feet Under into Deadwood? Come on.
Yeah, that's good.
You're not going to get much better than that. You're not going to get a lot of 2-hour chunks of television viewing as good as that.
Right, and HBO has always stuck to their medium of it's not television, it's HBO, and they give a cinema experience as far as the ability to get graphic with language, violence, sex,
Right.
et cetera, et cetera. And I got to admit, here's one of the things that is one of my problems with the HBO is that a sort of misogynistic shoehorning into their stuff. It's like they got to force the nudity in for some reason. There's a lot of their female characters are all about just showing off a lot of TNA. Not Paz Vega, whatever her name is on Boardwalk Empire. Star of Nurse 3D.
I don't know. I only watched the first season of that.
Yeah,
and that's
right. But that's one of the things though too is that I only watched the first season of Boardwalk Empire, and now at work I've got a couple friends who are devotees to it, and they're like, you really need to go back and watch it. Now, if I have HBO Go at my $10 a month, that continued talk years later of that show's really worthwhile. You need to check it out. It's right there. The Wire is something that we've got.
Well, over time, I think that shift makes more and more sense. But right now, there's no way you would pay. Would you spend $10 a month on ABC? They have twice as many shows.
Yeah, but it's all garbage.
Well, not all of it.
No, but there wouldn't be enough. And that's the thing is like a back.
What about NBC?
No.
So I mean, HBO is maybe the only network, but you don't want to be spending $10 a network.
Mm-mm.
You want that stuff to go. You want that stuff to go into a holding area. So the question becomes, can a single network survive? I mean, I guess the answer is no. But I was going to say, can a single
where we're headed though?
Streaming.
Sorry.
Isn't that where we're headed?
It is where we're headed, and I think
neutrality.
Yeah.
I don't see how.
Well, I think what's going to happen is there will be. I don't think television is not going to go away, and this is one of those things that people continually like. TV is dying. It's going to be it's that same talk of movies are dying because TV now exists.
Right.
Movies are dying because now people can just watch it on their big screen theaters at home.
It's the same way radio is dead.
Exactly. Yeah, you don't have a you don't have a $1 billion movie come out. Movies aren't grossing $1 billion because cinema is dying. They're just it's adjusting like everything
or
else.
Cinema.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But TV to some extent is just as big of an advertising platform for other shows or for the shows themselves. So if you miss it on television, you're either recording it on your DVR or it's going to be on their app. So I don't think cable itself is never going to. Television itself is not going to die. That medium is not going to croak because I think that's almost that place of discovery. Those are the video store shelves.
Right. And it's free. I mean, when you get right down to it, there's a broadcast reality that you can get by using by exploiting the radio spectrum.
Right.
That you can't get with full broadband penetration. So I could see a future in which the Hulu model remains, but the Netflix model starts getting chipped away at. So if I'm AMC, why am I letting Netflix stream my shows? And I could just say, come to AMC.com. I'm going to play them with commercials.
Right.
I'm going to get the page views. I'm going to get the commercials. My time visiting the page is going to go up. I'm going to get a huge comm score.
But you know what's weird? Like today, I watched the Sunday's Walking Dead on AMC, the AMCTV.com, right?
Uh-huh.
Most of the commercials were for Walking Dead.
Well, I wonder if they have.
Oh, don't forget we have Walking Dead, and don't forget we have Mad Men, and don't forget we have. Whatever. It's they're not even selling that revenue. They're not even selling that ad time to.
I think it's because I don't know if they've got the comm score or whatever it is to actually be able to go out and say, hey, look at how many hits we get. Like how many people? Because what do you call it?
But doesn't that make them a bargain then? if you want to reach out to the Walking Dead audience, it's the highest rated show on cable, like period, right? That's a hugely coveted demographic. It's got all kinds of buzz. It's a
on cable. I mean,
right.
It's a show that on cable, it's like everybody tunes in to watch it. It's one of those odd shows that doesn't get it gets DVR'd, but there are more people that actually show up to watch that fucker live than they actually are DVRing it.
You know why?
It has been regularly beating shows like Law and Order Special Victims Unit and stuff like it has been the top show of the week. It has been beating broadcast networks.
Right.
So there are more eyeballs on that show. So now I'm Ford. I want to buy 30 seconds of AMC's The Walking Dead, and why wouldn't I also say when you stream that online, bake in the commercials just like Hulu does and make it the same viewing experience from that night, or at least the national ads, at least the evergreen ads. I've never understood why these shows let Netflix stream their stuff without commercials when they could have Hulu stream it with commercials and have maybe some sort of rev share deal.
I think people would dump Netflix in a second if they had commercials in it. I think the Netflix model, everything else like that, is based upon the non-commercial and the non-commercial interruptions of television.
Right. So Netflix has to charge a higher premium. Even Hulu Plus has a lower premium, right? It's $5.99 or whatever it is.
No,
and
it's $7.99.
It's $6.99.
$7.99.
It's the same as Netflix.
So it's the same as Netflix, and they're running ads. So they're augmenting their revenue, which means that if they're writing checks to people, they can not only say, I'll write you this check, but you will also get a cut of every proceed. Now, Netflix could say, we will pay you a dividend at the end of the year based on the number of streams, but they're not augmenting that with advertisers. So it's going to cost them more at the end of the year. And if you're the person giving the money out, why don't you just say, I'll give you the content for free, make your site more appealing, but you run my ads during, my shows. I would sit through commercials in an on-demand world. Every show. Any show I want, I would sit through commercials for in an on-demand world.
Right, but you are also talking about a different world that we grew up in versus the younger generations. There's this whole weird, we don't want any advertising, we don't want anything.
I don't think that's weird. I totally get it. I'll skip ads when I can, and if a show is on Netflix and it's on Hulu, I'll always watch it on Netflix so as to not sit through the commercials. But that's because Netflix is screwing the distributors, I think. Netflix is screwing the content creators, I think. They're not doing anything to augment the value of the product.
I see what you're saying. I don't know. There's something not clicking properly with me with all of that.
I didn't like commercials before, but what was nice about commercials was that they made enough money for really high quality television to get produced.
You're right. Things like Knight Rider and the A-Team and whatever.
Those they remember to this day.
Yeah, but that doesn't make them good. I don't think they're remembered for being good. They're remembered for nostalgia. There's a whole nostalgia thing going on right now too, which is always
right. But at the time they were considered popular.
Sure.
At the time they were considered good, whether it was deserving or not. Emmys were awarded. Hill Street Blues came out in that time, right?
No, I agree. You're right. That money needs to be made so these shows can be produced, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But there is. I don't know. Theoretically, a subscription. If you can't afford to make something solid through your subscription base, then your subscription base doesn't want something like that. Maybe. Because the HBO growth was over a very long period of time.
Right. No. But you're exactly right. So if I'm Hulu, and ABC says, I want you to pay me this much money for Lost, and I want all the rev share, then they could probably look at the performance of that and go, yeah, no, we're not going to do that.
Right. Isn't ABC part owner of Hulu, though?
Well, that's just it. That's what Hulu was supposed to be originally, was all three. It was Fox, NBC, and ABC originally got together. Or maybe it was Fox, ABC. It might have been, I know it was Fox and NBC at the very least. And they got together and they said, this is the streaming solution, right? No more uploading our videos to YouTube. no more fighting with a different player on every site. We're going to partner with this new company called Hulu, and we're going to super fund them, and this will be how people watch television online in the future. That was their intention.
Sure.
It was a year or two later when Netflix came out. It was a little bit later.
Yeah.
But the idea was to mimic the television watching experience on the computer, which I don't have too much of a problem with. What's bizarre and what's frustrating when you watch Hulu is, I may see the same ad twice when I watch an hour of television, but if you watch an hour of television on Hulu, you are going to see the same ad many, many times.
Yeah.
Yes, but Hulu also has the thing where you can click the "Is this ad relevant to you?" They're actually gathering a lot of data on this.
I always do. I give them as much information as possible. I do not use feminine hygiene.
I've actually altered whatever commercials I have by being able to do stuff like that, and I agree. And they're only getting so many sponsors. They're only getting so much stuff. Also on Hulu Plus, it's like I feel like you get episodes earlier because I know on a lot of Hulu, and that was I forgot about that because I went just to Hulu and I was like, the amount of shows that have little H plus next to it, you're like, oh shit, right. That's why I'm paying that money. So I can see it the next day. But it's and then I don't know. I don't know. It's a messy situation all around. It's my fear, and here's the thing: is that you're talking a lot of television, which for the most part I couldn't care about. I mean, it's like if things go away, so what? It'll sooner or later show up on Netflix or somewhere. But my fear now is that all of these people are pushing to create their own original content, which means all of these outlets that were initially built for movies, for us to be able to see movies, are starting to slim that down. So the HBO model, which is now they're only debuting one big film a week or something like that, and then you're kind of left with, okay, do I have to watch American History X again because that curbing thing. But with Netflix now doing that, and they're taking more of their money to produce their own content versus licensing titles.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of the things that I want to see aren't showing up. So it's like it's weird, especially with Netflix. It's like I rewatched Ghostbusters 2 on Saturday morning, which is a horrible movie. It's not. I don't.
I'm not gonna watch the new Die Hard movie. That movie's a terrible movie.
This came into the this.
So you would rather not watch Die Hard, which the newest Die Hard, which is a movie you don't know anything about, but you would rewatch Ghostbusters 2, which is a movie you already know is bad.
Well, okay. Well, but let me explain. I also rewatched Last Action Hero too. So there's. Yeah,
but that was for research purposes. We discussed that on the podcast.
Right, as was the Ghostbusters 2 one. It had just popped up, and it was like I remember not liking this. I hadn't seen it since the theater. I remembered it being horrible, and the younger generation apparently has latched onto it. Though I will admit, it's the same generation that thinks Back to the Future 2 is better than Back to the Future.
You're hanging out with the wrong younger generation.
I know. Well, they're idiots. They're fucking retards. But I'm sorry. No, that would be an insult to those with mental issues. Anyways, so I was like, you know what? I'm going to give it another watch, and I was actually shocked at how derivative it was of the original Ghostbusters. Like it literally beat for beat kind of hit these main key things, like the montage that shows that once we're back, you got the montage now that just like the first one. But every song is some Ghostbusters rap.
Right.
Which was stupid as sin, and then
go on.
And then it's like, and it lacked the one thing that I realized that it really lacked was a good human bad guy. I'm trying to think of the guy. Heatherton, yeah, and the actor's name. William Atherton. Thank you, William Atherton. A great. I don't know where he's disappeared to or anything like that, but he was the best '80s scumbag actor.
I hope he's living in some mansion somewhere, just living well.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
Because residual checks.
Between Ghostbusters, between Die Hard, between Real Genius, he gave us like the best jerks.
He did so much for us.
Of the '80s, yeah. But they didn't have a William Atherton character in the second movie. They had kind of a slimy governor's assistant who really did nothing, and he wasn't that great. But yeah, the second movie is just kind of a train wreck.
Yeah.
And now I know for sure, and I saw that on Netflix. But that's the quality. That's mostly the quality of stuff that you're going to find on Netflix. There's some good foreign stuff. There's some you can
Oh my
find.
God, William Atherton was in an episode of Children's Hospital.
Really?
Gotta watch it. He's been doing a lot of TV. Goodness.
He's in something called Gin.
Yeah, I'm looking at that now. This year. All right, so he's working.
Shark Attack.
Jersey Shore Shark Attack. Well, Sharknado has done wonders for the career of Ian Ziering. We should not poo-poo the ability of a good sci-fi movie to bring you back.
Sci-fi.
TV.
Yeah, it's so. Anyways, all right. So let's we've strayed very far from.
One final point about Ghostbusters 2.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Great.
And then I think I got to wrap it up.
Okay.
Leave you with this final thought. Oftentimes, great films get made by people who I think don't know what made them great.
I would agree with you on that one.
And they go back and try and do it again, and you realize, oh my God, you have no idea what made the first one great, do you? And Ghostbusters 2 seems to be a perfect example.
Yep.
The other one that always comes... Which one?
The career of M. Night Shyamalan.
Right. His entire career is based on that concept. The other one that always pops up for me is Charlie's Angels. The first Charlie's Angels was just a blast. It was a lot of fun. It was good, stupid fun. The second one tried to do it again and just was a disaster.
I kind of feel that way about The Mummy, the Brandon
The Mummy
Fraser.
is a perfect example.
Yeah.
The second one is so bad, and the first one was so much fun. What's his name? The guy who directed Donnie Darko.
Yeah, sure.
He did, and then his follow-up movie was...
Southland Tales.
Yes, it was the same sort of thing, where I don't think he got what made his first movie so good. M. Night Shyamalan it's another example. But with Ghostbusters, that doesn't make sense. Because those were all people who, at that point in their careers, should have known better.
Right, and they've proven themselves through various different movies that
Correct.
they know what makes a good film. I think it was a partial cash grab. I think it was a partial. It was also during a time when sequels were much closer to the original film than being its own thing, if that makes sense. It's like
I would say it's the other way around. I would say you usually had more time before a sequel came out.
Yeah, but also
how often had any of the people involved in Ghostbusters been that successful before? That movie, you cannot underestimate how successful that movie was at the time.
That's true. It was a massive hit. And after that, I don't know if you remember Ivan Reitman's follow-up to Ghostbusters, Legal Eagles.
Yes, I enjoyed that movie.
Really?
With Daryl Hannah and Robert Redford?
Yeah, I would say if it's streaming on Netflix, rewatch it.
Yeah, am I not going to like it?
I have a feeling you probably won't. No.
Was Deborah Winger in that?
Yep. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Classic.
Yeah, I saw... Actually, wait. No, I did not like this movie. And if I'm remembering correctly, if you remember the movie at all, the part of the movie that totally lost me is when she did her performance art piece.
Yeah, with the fire? Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
I would say Legal Eagles was like a bad version of From the Hip.
Jeez.
I've lived my life too long without making From the Hip references. That ends today. All right, I gotta get going.
All right. So we'll close this out. T, you available next week?
Yeah.
Great. Okay.
I'll have a better laptop.
Okay, cool. And then theoretically, I don't know if the valves are gone and shoes back around or not, but next Tuesday, it may be possible that all four of us will be here to deliver a fun-filled opportunity of a show. Hopefully, we'll try to figure out some topics, some key topics that we can actually discuss, and not. So I won't be discussing the Grand Budapest Hotel or the works of Wes Anderson this week. I know,
Did you see it?
I did. Oh yeah, I saw it.
Okay, we'll talk next week.
Yeah. I'll just hint. Loved it. And we'll get into some more discussion next week. And I'm sure Shu has seen I Frankenstein by now. So
we should all watch Son of God before then.
Oh my! So really quick, did you know the whole story about Son of God? I mean,
No.
not the story. But...
Sexy Jesus, the movie.
No. That it was. So it's Mark
The
Burnett.
Bible, right?
Yeah. It was basically footage from that miniseries, The Bible, put together with some other scenes that they had shot and just shoved it back out into theaters. So if you were a big fan of the Bible and went and saw it, you basically seen 3/4 of it.
How was it doing? Did it do well?
I don't know. I don't.
We can find out.
Did it ever crack the top 10? If so, I mean, it wouldn't shock me. It's religious movies tend to do relatively well.
And that miniseries did.
Huge.
I'm gonna say gangbusters, but that's probably not the best way to describe the Bible. Opening weekend at 25 million.
Wow. What's the horrible thing is that for those who
as of yesterday, 42 million.
Enjoy enough about the story of Jesus, he of course goes into the temple where the moneylenders and other folks are peddling their wares, and he then of course gets very upset and takes his belt and beats people and throws shit around and says, I don't remember entirely the story.
No, he overturns tables. I think you're going to be hard pressed to find a scene in the Bible where Jesus takes his belt off.
Alexander Nureyev.
What was that, Gabe?
He fights Alexander Nureyev in the middle of the temple.
In the middle of the temple, right. And then links him up and swings him down on the chain.
Right.
And then the cop shoots him at the end. It's one of those things where it's like this feels like such a cash grab versus what it wanted to do, I guess, with the miniseries, which was to spread the word.
You know something? I think it is such a hard call. I think it is such a fine line between expressing what you believe in and giving the people what they want.
Then make a new movie. You're Mark Burnett. You got the money.
Exploiting religion. Well, he had it. Was he going to let the footage go fallow? I mean, he already had it.
Then put it out on video.
The people were clamoring for it. You reach a much broader audience. Then put it out on video. Is that what you would tell aspiring filmmakers? Don't bother with the theater. Put it out on video.
Yeah, why not?
No, you don't get
It's already a made-for-TV movie.
Audience that way.
It's a made-for-TV movie. Don't put it in the theater.
Yeah, but it was then remade for movie.
Repurposed. It wasn't even remade. It was repurposed.
It's a gently used film.
It was they took that plus the deleted scenes that were probably on the DVD.
Are you gonna go see the new Anchorman movie? It's the same basic thing. Only instead of Ron Burgundy, it's Jesus.
Huh.
There's 72 new miracles in this story of Jesus.
He raises Lazarus' brother as well in the theatrical release. There's a lot. There's more. He creates more fish and bread to feed more people in the theatrical release.
It worked the first time.
That's right. Yeah, he turned 3 more bottles of water into wine.
Just to spray the Statue of Liberty with positive goo. All right, we should wrap this up.
Yeah, that's the end of that one. All right, folks, we shall see you next week at approximately 9 p.m.
We will have topics.
Yes, we will have topics. Next week we'll actually kind of try to do a little bit of pre-planning so we know what to talk about. Looker will not be on that, so but we'll figure that out.
I'm gonna try and finish the video I'm cutting about Robot and Frank. I've got to finish that now that my computer's working. No crashes. That's all going, and that's something the world needs to know about. As far
Robot and Frank, yeah. We'll spread some more word about movies that people should be watching. So, all right, folks, we'll talk to you next week. Adios.
All right.